Hi there, welcome back to another quick and easy watercolor painting. I'm Rod Bergeron, and today we're going to work on pushing some stuff way back into the distance, as far back as we possibly can, and creating some visual interest with some depth of perspective. And you can see I wet the top 2/3 of this page, sort of slightly slanting down to the right. And this is some blue I put across here and some more blue, and I purposely left some white space in there. Okay, I'm not going to rinse this brush out. I'm going to put this right into my Payne's gray, and I'm going to try to make a sort of a mountainy type of a hill in the background here. And we're not going to put it in super detailed because we want it to look like it's way back in the distance. Okay, and you can see I put that right over top of that blue. I'm going to take this brush, I'm not going to rinse it out, I'm going to put it into my Payne's gray, and I'm going to tap it along here, and that should get some of that to bleed back into there, which should make that look like it's a little bit closer to us. I took my Payne's gray and I just dragged it across here in a wavy kind of a line. And pick up a little bit more Payne's gray and put it right into that. Now you can see where that first line and the second line have started to blend together. Put a little bit more detail on the side of this mountain or big hill or whatever it is that you're thinking about this being. And we're just going to let all that bleed together. Okay, I'm not going to do too much more work to it than that. And we're going to take this brush and we're going to dip it into the water and pull it right back out, and we're going to get a nice very wet line across there. Okay, now we are going to take this and rinse it out. And I'm going to take my #1 watercolor brush, and you've probably seen me do this before. This is I just sharpened the tip of this. I'm going to scribe some lines out of that Payne's gray into that wetness and just create a little bit of foliage that's going to be very, very close to us. Okay, I'm going to rinse my brush out again, and I'm going to pick up some of this, which is sienna. I'm going to make it quite a bit more vibrant than that. You see where I left those white spaces? I'm going to go back to those now, and I'm just going to touch those. I'm just going to touch some of that white space with my sienna and just let it all blend together. Okay, don't do too much more than that to it. And again, I'm going to go back to my little stick here, my #1 watercolor brush, and just scribe some more lines into it like that. I'm going to rinse my brush out really, really well. I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of this green. This is sap green. Pick up a whole bunch of this. And with one swoop, we're going to try to go from one side to the other and catch the majority of that white space across there. I'm going to pick up some more of this. I'm going to touch this in a few places. And we're just going to let that all blend together. See how that's gone? That green is bled up into the Payne's gray, and the Payne's gray's bled down into there. You're getting some really interesting color mixing going across there. I'm going to pick up some more green, much more saturated green. And I'm just going to touch it in a few places like that. And you can see how we're getting all this nice bleeding going across there. All right, that really intensified that field. We lost a lot of our yellow ochre in there. I'm going to actually pick up a little bit more yellow ochre. Just touch some yellow ochre in a few places like that. And again, let that all bleed together and see what we end up with. This is a little bit of a big puddle right here. And you can see how some of that's starting to bleed down into that. That's perfectly fine if you wanted it like that, but that's not really what I'm looking for. So I wet this brush and then I dried it off, and I'm just going to touch it like this. This would be called a thirsty brush. And then rinse it off again, and then squeeze the water off with your finger. And then just touch it in a few places, and you'll extract a lot of that water, which will help your painting dry up a lot quicker. Okay, and I'm just drying the edges up with a piece of paper towel. One last thing, I have my little bag of salt here. I'm just going to drop some salt in a few places. Not everywhere, but sort of sparingly in a few locations. And we're just going to let this dry up and see what we get. All right, let's check this out. Look at what the salt did to these areas. Look at that. That's sort of magnificent. Look at the bleeding that we got going on here with this mountain that we put in. Also, there's some little areas down here, like this really looks like some ponds or some wet some wetland across here. And we put our mat on it. You'll see that's turned out very cool as far as I'm concerned. I love the sky too. You see what happens when you put when you use wet and then you put a blue line and you leave the space, you really end up with some interesting clouds or some interesting sky formations. Let me know what you think of it in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you're currently a subscriber, thanks a lot. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.